Hello, everybody. Glad you could join us for episode number 31 of the Launch and Beyond podcast, a podcast designed to support you not only achieving great success in your business, but in all other areas of life as well. Have you ever dreamt of setting up a business and life around freedom? Freedom to live anywhere you want to live, running your business with low overheads, no employees, available to make money 24/7 and working as little or as much as you like or choose, and having abundance of time to explore your passions and your purpose in life. To have the time to nurture the most important relationships that maintain your own level of health and well-being, help create financial abundance to travel the world, assuming you still can, and provide you with choices, and importantly, designing your ideal life. Does that sound fantastic? Well, the guest on our podcast this week, and Adam is nodding his head as I'm going through this, has achieved just that. As both a professional Forex trader and a teacher and mentor to students throughout the world in this area, SJ Plumpton has been able to create a business and a life that many so could only just dream about, achieving all that I've mentioned previously and more. Now, has the process been easy? No. Has it involved a massive leap of faith and courage on SJ's part? You bet. And is this possible for you if you so choose to follow this path as well? Absolutely. In this week's podcast titled Freedom Through Forex Trading, we have SJ share her journey with us, how she runs her business, what it's been able to provide for her, and quite importantly for our listeners, why at a time such as this, where most of the world's businesses are shut down, businesses like SJ's are thriving. We hope you enjoy it. Okay, Adam, so I'm really excited about our podcast this episode this week. It's going to introduce a model around business that a lot of people may not be familiar with or comfortable with. So it's going to challenge some people. It's going to possibly excite some others. So SJ, welcome to our podcast program. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Jim and Adam. I'm excited.
Awesome. So SJ, before we get started, and we're really interested in what you have to share with us, Adam and I just do a really quick check-in with each other, just so that, number one, I know what he's been up to all week, but everybody just gets an insight into us as well. So are you okay if we briefly do that, and then we'll come back and bring you into the discussion?
You're the boss.
Awesome. Oh, wow. Oh, shucks. Thank you very much. So Adam, how are you tracking, buddy? How's your week been?
Yeah, this week's been pretty good. Back physically working on the production floor, so a bit more physically exhausted, but at the same token, I'm sleeping better. So I guess that's the main thing in this time when we're not doing too much physical activity. So it's been good to get out and actually get back to baking and do what I love and step out of the office for a little bit.
No, awesome.
What about yourself?
Well, I'm actually going really good, really good. I've had an exciting week, busy week, a lot of options and possibilities opening up for me. I'm firing. Like I've got up really early this morning. I've gone for a run around the lake, and that's what I've been doing lately. Is doing a lot more running. So I feel really.
What's really early for you? Is it like 2 a.m.?
No, not that. That's they're baker's hours, man. That's not me. No, I ran around the lake this morning at 5 a.m.
Oh, all right, yeah.
And which is okay because it's a Saturday morning. And in a previous life, I was still up at 5, but coming home. This time was actually quite weird, running at 5 a.m. on a Saturday morning. So that's what I've been doing. Super excited about today's podcast because we've got so many women who are listeners of our podcast throughout the world, and it's great to get a female voice coming into our podcast as well, and just give us insights into what it's like to be a female entrepreneur. And I've known SJ for a while now, so I'm really excited about where today's going to go. So SJ, let's come back to you. How about your week? What's your week been like before we get started, so that we get a snapshot of what's life like for you?
My week, just to be completely honest, because I'm always wondering about being, honest with how I'm feeling rather than just being, good for the sake of being good. I've had a pretty rough week.
Right.
Just, I don't know, like I turned 30 2 weeks ago. And
happy birthday.
And COVID hasn't really affected me in a work sense, right? And I'm a bit of a homebody anyway, but just the last couple of weeks of just, really not being able to do anything has actually taken a toll. But that aside, and perspective is always key. Like I'm, always grateful. but yeah, it has been a tough week. I had a couple of migraines, a bit stressed. I'm planning a wedding, and just COVID wedding planning doesn't really go hand in hand. But
My sister's doing that as well. So they had their date in November. They've pushed it to next year so they can get more guests.
yeah,
Sorry to jump in.
no,
No.
I know the frustrations. I see it on them every day. So I can see how it takes a toll.
just that uncertainty, But I'm sure we'll know more in a couple of weeks. But other than that, I'm good. I am genuinely good. I'm just a little bit frustrated.
Yeah. Well, you're in the right company, because part of the whole purpose of our podcast is really to give people an authentic insight into what it's like to live the life that we choose, that we design, and go down this path. And that's why we do our check-in, because it's all well and good to say, yeah, everything's great. Like that's the entrepreneur trap, or the facade that a lot of people in this space have. And what really, I guess, has connected us to our audience is our capacity and our willingness to be upfront and authentic and say, hey, I've struggled this week. This is the things that I come up with. And you and I have done some work in the past in a recording where we've looked at that as well too. So I know the capacity you have to be honest and upfront around that. And I think that if that comes through in our podcast this week, our listeners are really going to benefit from that, because they'll get both the high side of what it is that you do, but then also what it takes to get to that point. And you've started off really well. So you've given us a little bit of an insight into elements of you, but for people who may not know you, SJ, and would like to know a little bit about your backstory, would you just mind sharing a little bit about yourself so that people get to know you?
Yeah, absolutely. Just before I do that, you saying that, I have been able to build a business on being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And sharing my struggles and being relatable, because people don't relate to perfection. They relate to similarities. So for me, like, I have literally built my business on sharing my ups and my really big downs, to the point where, like a year ago, my mom was on my social media and she's like, oh, maybe you shouldn't tell everyone about that. And I'm like, but that's who I am and that's what's happening. And people can relate to that because there's other people struggling. So if I can share my struggle as well, then I'm relatable. So literally built a successful business on exactly that. So I'm not perfect by any means. My days aren't always perfect, but we've got, personal development, which I'll go into. But
what are you talking about? Entrepreneurs aren't always perfect. They're not always on highs.
I know. It's just unicorn and or unicorn and fairy dust all the time. Not okay. But so I am SJ. Sarah Jean is my name, where it comes from. I'm 30 years old. I'm a full-time Forex trader. I'm an educator, and I am a business owner as well. So I literally I help educate and mentor people who are wanting to get into the trading world, and just equip them with, education, support, guidance, and that mentorship. So I specialize in helping beginners to day trade with confidence. And if anyone has that desire to learn to trade, has no idea where to start, I take them from being an absolute newbie, like even if you don't even know how to spell Forex, to being really advanced. So I do things very differently in terms of like the program that we use and the education. But my students get the guidance to fully understand, how to read the market, to start off their trading journey successfully. So
Beautiful. And this is part of the reason why, and sorry, I feel like I cut you off then, Adam. Part of the reason why I really was really happy to have you on our podcast, as well as Adam has, is because you bring to our listeners a model of what is possible outside of what they may have considered. And it's highly adaptable, it's highly scalable, and I think it's actually really exciting. So that's part of the allure of having you on here and sharing your journey and also your learnings. Adam, did you want to say something there?
No, I just wanted to know what Forex was.
Forex, well, it is the largest financial market in the world. So it's turning over 7 trillion with a T, $7 trillion a day. So it's about, the stock market's about 200 billion. So it's significantly larger. It's literally, you know, what the banks are doing with your money. So I'm all about, you know, if you can't beat them, we've got to play with them. And yeah, so it's literally what makes the world go round. So it's kind of, if you've traveled overseas and you've gone to the US and you changed your AED for USD, you've literally just done a foreign exchange transaction. Now I just do that online, and I'm profiting from the fluctuations in the exchange rates.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Great. So we're going to come back to that in a moment, because it's really is interesting and exciting, and I've definitely ventured in the world of Forex myself, so I know the journey, and that is. But let's go back a step, and I help people identify what it got for you to get to this place, where you're, as I said, you've created a model that serves you, and you've built a life and a business around that. But can you give us perhaps a little bit of insight into some of the roles and tasks and jobs that you've had in the past, and more specifically, how you feel that led you to a career in Forex trading?
Yeah, cool. So growing up, I grew up on a property in North Queensland. So it's about 120 k's west of Mackay. I've had, my first job, I was literally 12 down at a corner shop. So my parents were, they've been really successful business owners. My parents are electrical engineers. So they really taught us kids, as much as we had a really good education growing up and we didn't go without, they really taught us the value of a dollar, right? So, I had a really good education growing up. When I was 12, I went off to boarding school in Sydney. My mum got really ill and just couldn't care for me. So they shipped me off, and I went off a bit off the rails at a young age. That 13-year-old girl with no kind of, mother figure around. So they just shipped me down there in Sydney. But I didn't actually finish school. So I didn't go straight into uni. I never wanted to go to uni. My parents raised me, right? They didn't, drop me off at kindy or anything like that and had other people raising me. They were always there for school things. So they were always around. So when I knew I wasn't going to go to uni, because that traditional route I knew just wasn't for me from a very young age. Anything I wanted to do, I literally did it until I liked something. That was, I went off and did chefing in school. I was working in a restaurant at Darling Harbour, an Italian restaurant, as a school-based kind of apprentice. So I went and did hospitality management, business management, sales, marketing, hairdressing, beauty therapy, personal training. I've done a lot, sales and, other marketing type things as well. And then I found trading. So I figured out at a really young age how I wanted my life to be. And then I did the whole Benjamin Franklin list with a bit of a twist. So yep. I literally just wrote out how I wanted to live my life and how I didn't want to live it. And then I just, sought after industries and skill sets that could give me everything I ever wanted. And then I wrote a pros and a cons for everything that I was doing. And then that's when I found trading, basically. So, yep. Honestly, unless I really liked my job, I was a really terrible employee, because from a young age, I never really liked being told what to do in terms of, when to show up, waking up to an alarm clock. That's the most unnatural thing. Being told when to have lunch, when I can take time off, if I can take, a day off, and the whole concept of being owned or controlled. I'm not a rebellion or anything like that, but it's never sat well with me. Yep. And I just believe that we were born to do more than just, wake up to an alarm clock, work, pay bills, and die. Yep. So I'm very much a free spirit. I love traveling. I love the idea of entrepreneurship. It was back in the 2008, 2009 financial crisis, where my parents' business, as I said, they're electrical engineers. They do a lot of specialized electrical training in high voltage and hazardous area. They put their business model online and did all of their training online. So over in South Korea, everything was done on an online portal. So I learned how to adapt in a business world, in a financial world, because they adapted and evolved. And if they didn't, they wouldn't have survived like every other company, like mining company, Mackay folded. So watching that really, educated me on the value of having an online income stream, something that was recession proof. And foreign exchange is recession proof. It's not like the stock market where, you've got your money in and then it's a daily market, right? So then the next day, maybe news hit overnight and then all your shares have dropped. We can make money and the rise and the fall. So I wanted to learn something that was a skill set where I'm in control. So yeah, I dabbled in various types of online businesses, but it wasn't until 2015 I discovered trading. But in terms of, what's the catalyst, I suppose, I got really real with how I wanted to live my life. I wanted a business, but I didn't want my income being controlled by clients. If they
Yep.
cancel, then there's my pay. I really just wanted to control my finances.
Great, great. So that's an awesome synthesis of things. There's just a couple of things I'd love to highlight that I'm hearing as well. Is number one, obviously you had a background in business in terms of your mum and dad being business people. So Adam and I have spoken about this in past, where how much of it is by our experiences, what's the drive to get into business. Some people have got it and it's the only thing they've ever known, and other people, by virtue of wanting to create a change, follow that along. I
Well,
definitely
that's like me.
Yeah,
I've
correct,
always
correct.
been in business. So my
Yeah,
parents have always been in business. That's all I've known.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
all I knew what I wanted to do. And same
yeah,
thing, I didn't want to go to university. I went and did commerce for a year and a half, but definitely did not want to be there. I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like, you're the first son, you got to go to uni. So I did my obligations, but no,
yeah.
had to do something else.
Yeah, so that's all cool. And the other thing, SJ, that I really heard as well too is, I guess, following your own curiosity and being able to be comfortable with that, trying to find what it was that resonated with you. So that's really, really important. And I can understand, how it got to Forex trading, because you had a reference that, okay, online is the way to go. I've just got to find the avenue that fulfills my values and all the things that are important to me, and I can logically see the pathway that led you to that. So that all makes sense. So and I guess by probably being privy to our previous discussions as well, if it's okay, I'd really love you to share the catalyst of what really got you into trading. Like you talked about the journey, but for most of us, we get to a point where we have to make a decision. There's, whether it's an event, a series of events that go, no, I need to change. Was there something specific that um, was was that for you that made you realize that this traditional model, this traditional pathway that a lot of people are living, wasn't for you, and you needed to go left instead of right, for example?
Yeah. So many things. 2015 was a massive year
Yeah.
for me. So 2015, I was a business developer. So I had started out as a subcontractor. It was my first, real business of my own. I was a subby, but I was working on my time. It was all performance-based pay. So it was in a sales role. And it was basically dealing with all skill shortages across my region was Brisbane to Cairns. And it was, instead of sending, tradies to trade school, it was all on-site training. So it's literally you can go to 60 Minutes and type in, or, YouTube or Google and type in face-to-face Jordan Belfort, and you can read all about it. Anyway, the company basically, hooked the bed. And me as a business developer, subcontractor, none of us got paid. So it was about 6 months of hard work that we didn't get paid from. So the most compensation we got was an iPad that we used to sign students up on. And so there was tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars of commissions that weren't paid. And 2015, I had disconnection notices. My power got cut off. My dogs were eating better than me, just because I had a sub-zero bank account. And years prior to that, my parents were my safety net. I was always no, my parents could look after me. I was not that spoiled little brat, but I was safe because I could call upon that. And for me, I was 25. It was come on, Sarah, get your shit together. You need to be, I had all these wild dreams of retiring my parents. I still do. I don't need to, but to be able to look after my parents as they have looked after us kids, it's a big value of mine, knowing that I can look after them in their elderly years. And I'm 25, you're not going to get these goals if you don't start, looking after your stuff. But one thing that really dawned on me was, I don't know which exact year it was 2014 or 2015. I learned some really scary financial statistics in terms of, retirement. We don't get the pension or anything like that. And, when I go to retire, we need roughly $3 million as a married couple to retire on. And dollar now, like inflation, cost of living is going up, $3 million, that's not that much money. Okay. And for us to have that type of money, that means us putting away 50 grand a year from now on. Most people don't even make that, right? So we won't be getting the pension, we won't be getting anything like that. So people are losing, the horror stories about people's superannuations. So I really felt the need to take responsibility of my future. Otherwise, my future financially was going to be really tough. Like, I already had a sub-zero bank account. Like, shit couldn't get any worse for me.
Yeah.
Right? And then I read a couple of books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, multiple books, and they all really brought home the fact of like passive residual income and investment income and all these, the 7 types of income. And then like what the questions were like, how many sources of income do you have? Do you have any desire to add any more? Because, the biggest financial risk that we take is, what's the word I'm looking for? Leaning on just one source of income, depending on one stream of income.
Yeah.
Right? And we need to diversify.
Yeah.
Especially if that income is your time related income. So if you're just working and that's your only source of income, you physically turning up, it's very, very hard to grow yourself and your financial, background if it's just you exchanging money for time.
Yep.
So getting into the passive area is awesome.
And it's funny you say that because, we can all have permanent jobs and contracts, but when things like this year happen, that goes out the window. The governments are allowing businesses to do whatever they need to do to survive. And no one is safe. Job security does not exist. That is obsolete. So I'm really hoping like this year people are now like, and they are like, my customers, even just the interest level in learning to trade has probably honestly like 200% more. Yeah. Because people are like cluing on to the fact that shit, we can't just rely on our job because our job is going to quit us at some point, because companies are not loyal. They're loyal to themselves and them making money. Doesn't matter how great your boss is. Yeah. They're going to do whatever they need to do to survive. So yeah, for me back in 2015, I had like my situation was really bad. I was like 15K in credit card debt because I got a credit card because I wasn't getting paid. And I didn't have any means of paying that back. So I got a job in retail, God forbid, very character building retail. And that, say again?
I think everyone should do retail.
Yeah.
Retail and hospitality.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 jobs I think everyone needs to do in their life.
I mentioned to Jim last year at a dinner, and I think I've mentioned on the podcast, being in a kitchen is amazing because you got to deal with pressure and you got to deal with issues instantaneously, because people don't care in the front if you're stressed in the back or if you run out of something or if you burn something. They want to eat now. They don't want to wait. They don't care. They've come to eat and go home and have a good night, and they don't want to wear your pressures and your burdens. So I think being in hospitality is amazing, and retail just to learn about people. It just, And that's what I credit a lot of my sales to now, because high pressure and dealing with people. Yeah. Sorry to cut
in. Totally agree. Yeah. And like just on last night's call, actually, the 7-figure mentorship call that we did, there was people that had never even knew trading, and it wasn't trading related. It was mentorship, right? So my daily job it's not just about trading. It's about, the reason I'm so heavy on social media is because I don't care if I get 1 like or 100 likes, because I'm not posting for that. I am posting to teach. And that is something that, fulfills me. So last night, I painted a picture for everyone of what the norm is, right? We all have a job, or maybe you've lost your job, but we've all have had a job. We show up, we work our hours. We know some people that work more, maybe work less. Either way, we get paid for the work we do. Then we go home, we turn the TV on, we crack a beer or wine, we scroll social media, we watch some mind-numbing BS on TV, then we go to bed. We wake up to an alarm clock. First thing we do is we grab our phone, turn our alarm off, then we are scrolling social media. We use our money to pay our bills and whatever else, and we buy things with money that we don't really have to impress people that we don't really like.
We don't like, yeah.
It's a really vicious cycle, and I was doing that. And something that clicked for me was I had to start making changes because, like I said, my situation couldn't get any worse, and I was in a corner. And the only way out for me was forward. So I had to look at options. So like I said, I read a couple of books, Building Wealth, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the whole residual income, passive income thing. I had none of that. I was working and slaving away. And if I showed up, then I would stop getting paid. And I read, well, you know, all this passive income, you know, I have residual bills. So why don't I have residual income? So that's when I decided to get involved with all this online entrepreneurship and trading. And when it came to, you know, all this online, like I looked into e-commerce, but I just didn't want to, you know, sell a pen for the sake of making money, right? I didn't want to just sell a product. You know, business 101 is you've got a problem and then you're going to provide a solution, right? Me just selling a pen to make quick money, that didn't sit well with my values and my morals. And even though I've got friends that do it, they make like, you know, 300 grand a month from selling a makeup sponge or something crazy like that. I still have values and morals in place of how I want to make my money and then what I do with it. So I was very picky and choosy, and trading, it's a bloody honest way of making money. Like you're literally coming on, making money, getting off. Then you have then options, and all money is, and I don't think people really understand what money is money is options.
Yeah. Great. That's a great summary just to take away, because that's what it is. It's options. It's energy in a lot of ways as well, but options totally as well. So let's shift a little bit forward. So you've started Forex trading. The circumstances you've outlined really eloquently and beautifully that it got to the point where you realized I need to change, and you're experiencing your own financial challenges. You're looking to find a model that resonated with you that you could move forward with. You've stepped into Forex trading. You've been doing that for a few years. Tell me, what did it take to go from dabbling to become a dedicated full-time Forex trader? So who did you need to become? What fire did you have to go through in order to make that a reality?
Cool. I love this question. This is actually a frequently asked one I get asked on our Tuesday calls. But so when I first started, I started learning to trade in 2015 when all of this stuff was crap. But I was learning on YouTube, books, Google. Like I bought a couple of books on Amazon. They were great books. And a Cooling Forex for Beginners and Naked Forex. So literally a very advanced and then a very basic. They serve the purpose, but trading is, you're not going to learn how to trade from a book. Yeah. I mean, you could learn about it for sure. You're not going to learn on YouTube. I mean, you can learn on YouTube, but it's damn hard. You can learn on Google, but it's damn hard because everyone's a guru, right? And because I didn't have the money to lose, I didn't know how to or who to take advice from financially, because I didn't want to get gypped. So I put it on the back burner for a bit because I didn't have any mentorship, any guidance. I like to ask questions. I'm a visual learner, so I like to know, like, why is this doing that? And YouTube doesn't speak back to me, and neither does a book. So I put it on the back burner. And then when I moved to Brisbane in 2016, when I got that retail job, I was just learning to trade at night. A friend called me and was like, hey, are you still trading? And I said, no, and just literally that story. And he's like, well, I'm learning to trade through this platform. Like, it's super affordable. It was $200. And I was like, yeah, okay, no worries. I trusted him. And then I just got on a call with the CEO of the company, actually, because I was like, I want to know about everything. As I said, I like to ask questions. So we literally did all that. And so I was working my 9 till 5. It was more like, you know, an 8 till 6 by the time I was there and home. I was a manager. So I only had nighttime to trade. And trading is so much easier to do on the side of a job, right? Like you don't just start trading and quit your job and then become a full-time trader. Okay. So having a really steady income when I was learning, I strongly believe that was one thing that was extremely helpful in me, you know, learning how to trade well, right? Because the stress of needing to make money on the markets wasn't there. So I was able to spend the time developing myself emotionally for trading as well, because trading itself as a skill set is not difficult, right? We make it difficult, and the average person probably hasn't even read a book in their life. Let's be real. And personal development, personal growth, emotional intelligence, like psychology is honestly 90% of this. Yep. So having my job that was paying me took out the pressure. So then I was able to spend time developing myself rather than making some money, then quitting to, you know, pursue trading full time, because doing that is so detrimental on your trading journal, because it creates, you know, a whole other level of emotional stress, and it brings out emotions of desperation. And we cannot have that when we're on the chart.
Yeah.
So I built up a small trading account when I was working, and that really provided me with the financial stability and honestly, like the mental comfort to trade well. You know, this is how it really starts for everyone. Everyone focuses on the big money, right? Everyone's like, I want to make this much money, but you know, we want to make 100K straight up as fast as possible. But what we really need to be focusing on is, how do we make our first dollar, then our next $5, then our $10? Because the same way we make $50 is the same way we make 100 or 200,000 or 1,000, you know? And my definition of a successful trader is someone who can make a little bit of money, then make a little bit more money, then let that grow and let that compound and then keep it, okay? Because it's not about the big hit. Like, people think trading's risky. The three things that we can control when it comes to a trade is our stop loss, which is our risk management, our entry, and our take profit. Yep. They're the three. We can't control what the market does, but we can control those three things, which takes the risk out. Yep. So, you know, that's, you know, my transition from going from part-time to full-time was really it's just a process, and you have to be really patient, right? It's not a Monday to Sunday thing for me when I was trading, because the market opens 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, closes Saturday morning 6 a.m. roughly thereabouts. So for me, my trading days were Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Mondays was too slow for me. Fridays I was just, you know, at the store. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays were my days. So, you know, when I first started trading, another really big pivotal point for me was, when I first started trading, I was learning retail concepts. Now, what I mean by retail trading is, now I'm a retail trader because I trade for individual use. But then there are institutional traders, which are the big players. So even though I'm a retail trader, I have now learned and I teach institutional concepts. Now, what most traders don't understand is the language of the market and the amount of volume and market share from the institutions. You know, that's what you need to be focusing. You need to understand that they are the market, right? And if you go to Google and type in success rate of Forex traders, it'll tell you that 90 to 95% of traders lose money, fail, or quit. Yep. And there is a million reasons as to why that is, like no risk management, no guidance, no education, you know, and there's a million reasons. But it's no coincidence that 95% of the market lose money and fail, and 95% of the market are retail traders, and 5% of the institutions, right? Yeah. So when I learned that the 5%, even though they're the minority, they're accounting from anywhere from 64 to 92% of the market share. So we need to be thinking like the banks if we want to be making any money in that. And that's when I went from like making a little bit to then making a lot of money. Yeah. I understood the language of the market.
Yeah. That's really cool, because effectively a couple of key things, I guess, for our listeners to really take away from this is, you know, years ago, you used to be thinking it had to be one or the other. And what you've done there is showed the succession process of going from being a newbie to working it around. And that's what I've always loved about Forex as well, is the ability to create it around your current lifestyle, so it doesn't have to be either or. So a lot of times people start off a side business or a side hustle. I'm not really keen on that word, but side business. This really complements what you had then. So you had the security and comfort of your normal work while you were learning the craft, and that's the really key part of it. And that's the beauty of Forex, is it's an ultimately it's the ideal business. And I've heard it explained many times with Forex traders that I've done training with as well. It's the ideal business because it's scalable, it's open, you don't have employees, and the skills and tools that are designed to make $1 are the same to make 20, 50, 100. Couple of really important things that you mentioned there I just want to highlight is, number one, the market doesn't care about your needs. It really doesn't care. And so the biggest thing that I've seen with people coming to Forex trading is they're coming into it with an expectation of an outcome and a need. And when they do that, they don't follow through their systems, they don't follow through their protocols, the emotional regulation isn't there to make clear decisions. And so part of any business is risk loss and risk mitigation. And what I heard, what you were basically saying, and we covered this in one of our podcast episodes quite a few weeks ago, probably about 5 or 6 weeks ago, was turning pro. Is the change of going from an amateur to a professional. Sometimes it's your mindset, sometimes it's your system, sometimes it's just leveling up and deciding I want to play a different game, but something has to shift. And what you outlined, in my opinion, was what it took for you to go from amateur to a professional. Yeah, specifically.
I just want to jump in quickly. For a complete newbie, what are we trading on Forex? Are we trading companies like on the ASX, or what are you trading? Bonds? Is it,
foreign exchange, so currencies?
Just currency. All right, yeah.
Just currencies. However, saying that, because of our, I can never say this word, I've got to think about it, methodologies.
Yeah.
Not a word that rolls off the tongue. Being like institutional concepts, we can take that if, I trade gold, oil and silver as well. Yep. Right. So because it's institutional concepts, and the style of learning, like Wyckoff logic, is a guy from Richard Wyckoff, who was a stockbroker back in 100 years ago, very famous stock trader. He's created, or he didn't create, but he's like outlined the price cycles within the market. And there's 4 price cycles. So for me, being like, I'm sure there'll be a question about my style of trading, so I won't answer that now. The 4 price cycles in the market repeat themselves. So if you understand, things like imbalance and mitigation, and things that you would have no idea about, but what I'm trying to get at is market structure should just be viewed as an overall thing of price cycles, and that always repeats itself. So if you're trading, there's like, this industry has been around for 400 odd years, and it was only made available to people like us to retail trade in, I think it was like 94 or 96. So that was with advancements in technology, internet, and all that type of stuff. So we are the people that have made trading difficult, right? Because the banks back in the day, they literally just use business 101, supply and demand. That's it. Yep. So we're the ones who created all these indicators and fancy lagging, technical things that, contradict each other. So if we want to keep trading simple, take it back to what they did back in the day, supply and demand, and find those key levels in the market.
Yep. So it's basically like people like me jumping on the ASX and going after Afterpay, and people going, what's so special about Afterpay? And it's just because we all just go, oh, it's making money, so let's just buy it because it keeps making money. So we don't know what's really happening. We just jump on a positive share.
Yeah, and you know what? And you highlighted something is really cool. And this is the risky part of what people associate with Forex as well. And SJ, please jump in at any time if I'm talking tripe or talking overstepping my mark. But fundamentally, it's, Warren Buffett used to say that the market is the greatest avenue of transferring wealth from the uneducated to the educated.
And the impatient to the patient.
And the impatient to the patient, correct. So effectively what happens is the Forex is, imagine going to an environment where people have, SJ's talking about currencies, but there's so many avenues for trade that are happening. And so whenever the world is going through really a lot of volatility and uncertainty, that's when most people look for security, and they generally will go to gold, right?
Yeah.
But effectively, if they're looking at points going, hey, shit, I'm really not sure what's going on, there are particular pairs or currencies that are there, like the US dollar and the Japanese yen, that people go to because that gives them, and the Swiss currencies as well, right? So what happens is someone who has a really good, what's called a geopolitical view of the world, looks at this and says, where is the world going? What impact is that likely to have on the decisions and the currencies? Which economies are going to thrive? Which are going to struggle? And you can make a bet on a company, go, that country is really going to be struggling right now. So you can basically short the currency. So it's a really adaptive model. SJ, am I talking tripe here, or am I?
No, you're good. You're good. Basically what you're saying, is you can make money in the rise and the fall.
Correct.
And
Correct.
the Swiss franc, the yen, they are very much safe havens.
Yep.
Within the space. If you think of like, so the pairs I trade EUR USD, GUs, which is the Great British Pound and the US dollar. I trade AU, AUD USD, and EG, which is EUR GBP.
Right.
And the reason
So let's go back to people like who are just go, hi, this is Forex. So you've outlined some currencies, right? The Australian dollar, the euro. So they're the specific things about, and probably for people, this is probably going to be on for them right now. But just to understand that where you make your money is in identifying a particular currency. Let's say the Australian dollar and the American dollar. And when, we all hear everybody say, hey, the Australian dollar is going up, if you felt that the Australian dollar is going to rise over time and you've got a position in that place, you're going to benefit from that upside. Yeah. And as a Forex trader, you make strategic decisions or strategic, I wouldn't say assessments, and say, look, based on the charts that I'm analyzing, it looks like the Australian dollar is going to be going on a rise, and I'm going to get on ride that. It's not a hope and pray type strategy, which is what traditionally, Adam, you were talking about, where a lot of people get burnt and they do their dough.
See, that's what retail traders do. If everyone's buying, I'm not buying.
Yeah.
Right? Because how the institutions trade is they do the exact opposite of the masses. So banks sometimes will enter a trade, they go in drawdown, which means their accounts are in negative because they're manipulating the market to go into the direction that they want to go in. But after they've cleaned out all retail traders' stop losses and monies, which is what we call liquidity, that's when they can come back, because then now the market is in the direction that they essentially wanted to go in. So banks will always be generally in drawdown, because if everyone's buying, they're going to be like, no.
Yep. Yeah. And let's put it in retail terms. Sorry, I jumped in there, Adam.
No, all good.
It's basically saying, okay, here's a sale, right? You're going into, you talked about retail, you go into a store. This is the thing that really made sense for me, is no one in their right mind goes into a retail store and says, pair of jeans, 120% of its value, and everybody's killing themselves to get on there, right? So what effectively it happens is that when we go 90% off, 70% off, we go, hey, I see the value in that. And you take positions in that position. But what happens on the stock market or on momentum trades that are basically built on a bubble is that people are seeing the rise and they're willingly playing overs because they don't want to miss out. But that's not strategically a good market strategy. It's not counter-cyclical. It's not going against what you should be doing. It's just, I don't want to miss out.
So you're talking about like the conspiracy theory with the cashless society and everyone jumping on gold in the past month or something and going, we need something that's secure. Gold is always going to be around. And then you just saw it went up so many, what was it? It was like 10, 15% or something. Yeah. It just went up so high, and then not many people were buying, and now you can see it's gone straight back down because that bubble sort of burst.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the psychology that SJ was talking about before, because it's an emotion, right? It's fear and greed are the main drivers in a lot of ways, and having that emotional regulation to be able to calibrate that to make good strategic decisions is what we're talking about. Is that correct there, SJ?
Absolutely. And that kind of rolls into your question of who do you need to become?
Yeah.
That you just asked. So in terms of, we need to be childlike, right? We need to be a student. So I had to become a student of those who were where I wanted to be, right? When I first started trading, the shade I got thrown. It was just like, they would bring me all the Google stats, 95% of traders fail. And I'm like, okay, cool. But let's break that down as to why that is, right? Because I never take anything at face value. Like if someone says something, I'm like, I'm going to research that for myself. Not because I don't want to believe them, but I want to think for myself. And that is something people do not do these days. They just take whatever they see on TV, on Google, on YouTube, and take it as face value without actually diving into it and understanding why. So when I read that stat of, 95% of traders fail, it's not just that. Like traders don't just fail, right? The industry It's got nothing to do with the industry as to why people fail. It is everything to do with who you are. And as you come onto the charts, that is what makes someone fail, right? So I had to become a student. And what I mean by that is, and not listening to people's opinions, because in the past, I would water myself down to be accepted, right? I would take people's advice and opinions based upon what I thought I needed to do in order to be liked, right? And I think it's important to mention that because, more often than not, young women especially feel the need to bend and mold into versions of themselves in order to be accepted. And in my industry, in trading, I literally get paid from the markets to personal develop, right? That's literally all I'm doing. I get paid to be the best version of myself, because in trading and in business, our success will never outweigh our level of personal development, because success is something you attract and you achieve by the person you become. So my job is literally to be the best version of myself. So to answer the question of like, who do I need to become? I needed to become a more authentic version of myself, because money only amplifies who you truly are. So I needed to become a truer version of myself. And that's how I've been able to build, like I said at the start of the call, I've been able to build a really successful business by sharing my struggles, by being vulnerable, by being human, by being authentic, and by seeing people as people, and I run my business. Yes, I'm in sales and I do that as well, but I don't look at people as a transaction. I look at them as human beings, as they have problems and I have a solution. And I let them know that for them to, get better, make better money, achieve a better lifestyle, that they have to evolve as a person. And evolving is really painful, as we both, as we all three of us know, right? And becoming better versions of ourselves, that requires time, energy, it requires humility. And the reason I've been able to have my success is, and that's a tiny amount in compared to like my mentors, and it's all because I became a student. That's literally it. So I had to become coachable. I had to become teachable. I had to drop my ego. I had to, when we're children, we're taught that you're taught about right or wrong. And in trading, you're not always going to be right. And when we're wrong, that's when our ego gets hurt. And then we revenge trade and we do all this stuff. So we need to become really good versions of ourselves. And success in trading, it's not found on a chart. It's not found on a computer screen.
I was just going to say there's, and like I said, I have Forex traded before and had phenomenal results and outcomes. Took some great lessons from it as well too. But there's two areas in my world and life, and it's really interesting that you're both on this call, that I feel my senses are alive and I have to have my wits about me. And that is when I was Forex trading and also in jiu-jitsu, because they're the two areas that really sharpen my awareness. Why? Because if you aren't present, if you don't have it, because of the scalability of Forex trading, things can shift really quickly. And if your emotions aren't in check, you get taken out really quickly. And so to me, it was a really phenomenal way of, and I hear what you're saying about the importance of being grounded in that journey and not coming to a market with expectations or fears, doubts, because they're just going to play out in the way that you trade, that you're going to second guess your systems. You're going to try to emotionalize a process that you don't need to. And so it plays out amazingly. And the same thing happened in jiu. So the realization, they're the two areas. And that's why I think I've always been interested in talking to you about this as a means of personal development, SJ, because it shows you how you do life, and it's a real amplifier. So,
well, that's what I was going to outline was SJ was just sort of basically talking about a white belt mentality, which we've spoken about
pretty much
so many times on this podcast. That's how Jim and I met, was through jiu-jitsu. So we always talk about this white belt mentality and always being a student, but we also talk about black belt living and, mastering everything that you do. But you've constantly got to be open. Even our instructor, who is a black belt, still says he has white belt mentality. So, you can master something, but you've always got to be open to growing even more. So that's exactly what SJ was outlining. And, it's great to hear that, and the humility and, to be as you said, honest and transparent, and go, hey, this is me. I might not know everything, but that's what makes you approachable.
Yeah,
100%. My mentor, Mike Miles, incredible. He's like the Harry Potter of trading. He's a wizard. I said to him the other day, I'm like, you are seriously the wisest person I've ever met. And he's like, no, SJ, I'm a student.
yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
man, Yoda.
Yeah, that's great. That's cool. No, I'm loving this. This is what we've been talking about, but they're transferable principles across so many avenues and platforms. So, SJ, just checking in. How are we going for time? Are you still okay if we keep going? Because this is gold. This is fantastic. So, could you please just run us through? So you've given us an insight into who you need to become, some of the things that the most common questions you get asked. Can you run us through a day and life of a Forex trader?
Yes. Well, so in terms of a Forex trader, when I first started, I was day trading. Okay. Mm-hmm. And something that took me a really long time to learn with trading is sometimes there are no setups. Okay. And that's okay. If there was no setups that were, on the charts, because I have a motto and it's on my chart every single day, trade what you see, not what you think. Right.
Okay,
that's really important, because we have to take what the market gives us. We can't be like, oh, I think it's going to do that. Like, hope is not a strategy in this,
Yep.
So if there wasn't any setups, I would back test and I would practice and I would do some, paper trading, and I would do some, personal development, or I would watch my mentors' live streams. I would sit, I would be patient. And the reason I would do that is because I don't want to be taking subpar setups just because I've got the trader's itch, know?
Yep.
My pair selection preparation is done more so on a weekly basis. And 90% of my watch list is created on the weekend for the week ahead. So I'm predominantly a swing trader. I'm not a day trader, but it's 50-50. We can't just come onto the market on a Monday morning and be like, all right, I'm going to swing trade today. Let's go. And then just enter a swing trade. We've got to take what the market can give us and not force trades because we want to trade. So I do day intraday. Like I said, those days are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays during London session. So London session for Australia is 5 p.m. So 3 hours a day and I'm done for my trading essentially. But my biggest wins have been on swing trading. So
tell us about that, actually, because for people who may not know, even if they're interested in it, what's swing trading, just so they can take that away from our podcast.
So scalping, there's a couple of types of trader styles. We've got scalping, which is very high pace, minute time frames to 15 minute. That's not good for my anxiety. So I stay away from that. Also, I didn't get into this to be a slave to my computer. Like, freedom is what I wanted to do. So, most traders start off as a day trader, which means you're in trades for a couple of hours. That's it. So you don't have to be on the computer the whole time. Like I said, once you've got your stop losses and your take profits set, there's really no need to come back and look at your trades, because then you're babysitting your trades, and we don't do that. And then there's swing trading, which means, like for me, when I'm swing trading, I'm buying and to sell a currency at the same time, because that's what happens for a few days to a week. So for me, on the 10th of July was my last swing trade. So to me, there's not always opportunity, but I entered that on the 10th of July and I was in it for 2 weeks and I caught over 1,700 pips. So that was a ginormous trade. And that was straight off a market manipulation style trade. So generally with a day trade, you've got your result within a few hours, but we've got to wait for opportunities to come to us. So when you're first starting out, you are definitely on the charts more frequently, because you've got to put the study in and the chart time in to become, consistent. You've got to grow your account, compound it. But I got into swing trading because 2017, that's when my life really changed. I had to become a full-time carer for my mum. So I wasn't able to be on the computer, day after day, 13 hours in hospital and whatever else for, 6 months. Like my lifestyle just changed. So I had to then adapt my, my trading style. So trading is very flexible. If you have a 9 to 5, there's opportunity. If you have a nighttime job, there's daily opportunity, because it's a 24-hour market. So trading is flexible. Your job isn't. So this is something that is why, what really appealed to me as well in terms of which industry did I get into in terms of trading, because the stock market's obviously a daily industry. I worked a day job. I couldn't do that at night. Whereas Forex, given London session and the New York session at our nighttime, they are the most volatile sessions, meaning there's a lot of movement on them because the Eurozone, the pound, and the US dollar are very heavily traded. So our night times, there is always generally opportunity to make money on the chart. So yeah, I guess that would answer that.
Yeah, no, and what I really love that as well, and that's what I'm taking out about your question is, you're right. You identified there's elements of trading that don't suit your personality, so you went to the swing trading as opposed to, as you said, the scalping, which is like akin to being tuned to that. So this is building on what we're talking about is freedom. So and knowing some of the clients that you work with, we've had in previous conversations, you have mums who constitute a high number of your students who can fit being a mum and have a system that's in place, that's set, and they just let it run. They basically trust the system and trust the process and put their energy and focus where they want to. And this is what's always resonated with me about the way you go about that and trying to explain to people is have trust in the process, get yourself out of the way, is just allow the system to go and put your focus on the things that give you joy and fulfillment and fulfill your values. And that to me is why I keep coming back to this as a discussion point about ultimate freedom.
Mm-hmm. I just on that, like, trading, I've got uni students that just want to make an extra couple $100 a week to put fuel in their car, right? And also have that income while they're at uni so they don't have to worry about a job, so to speak. I've got mums also, like you just said, Jim, and that's, I really, like my first couple of years trading, I just attracted all these mums that wanted to trade for some reason. And I love that because, as like Jim and I, we've spoken multiple times, and how we met actually was on a personal development retreat. And the reason I went there was for like a completely different reason, but the reason I went there was to do with relationships and love, right? And in relationships, and especially when couples start having kids, finances is a ginormous stress. And because I love love so much, the divorce rate's really high. And the main reason for divorces is finances, right? Yeah. And that really upsets me. Love for me is like the greatest thing in the bloody world. But anyway,
it's your highest value, right? It's one of your highest value. And so when you're living congruently with that, you feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
So that's totally cool.
So if I can, give a mother an option to make some income at home so she can, go get her hair done without, it causing financial stress on the family because now there's only one income. I don't know, that's just an example. But that for me is fulfilling for me, that I can put a mother in a position where they can be making income and contributing and relieving the financial stress that they have on their marriage because now that they're down to one income, right? That really is what, floats my boat as well. So there's this industry doesn't discriminate, doesn't care if you're, male, female, black, white, yellow, purple, been to jail, like it does not care. So it is, it's a beautiful industry for that reason as well.
Great. Adam, is there anything you wanted to add there, mate? I could.
No,
there's a whole lot of
going.
Oh, because I'm, like I said, I'm there's I guess attractive things that are coming out, and my brain's going, okay, we can go there. But Esther, you've already talked about some of the advantages of Forex trading. So just briefly, just go, okay, so what are some more advantages of Forex trading you may not already have covered, which would be great for people to know?
Yeah. So aside from, industry advantages and stats, I love it personally because of freedom. Like travel is a massive passion of mine. So if I can make money from my laptop and my phone and be anywhere, then that's how I want to make my money. Okay. So it's performance-based income, making it one of the fairest ways to make money. There's no government award wages telling me how much I'm worth per hour. I control what I make based upon my risk, and my trade management with my take profit. So being, the largest financial market in the world, 24 hours a day, 5.5 days a week, there's flexibility at all times to trade. So pick your session. There's London session, New York, the Australian session, and the Asian session. So another really good benefit, and when it comes to risk, is that every single trader starts with a demo account. And that allows you to practice trading without the risk, right? Essentially, you know, a try before you buy type thing. And it's simulating a live environment because you're still trading live markets. You're just on a demo account. So it gives you a chance to make all the mistakes that you need to make. And just really put a trading plan together. So a trading plan. So once you've nutted out how to work the trading app MetaTrader 4, you've inputted, 100 odd trades. You've seen some consistency. You've grown that account from say 200 to 500 the right way. It's not about big wins. It's not about big hits. It's about consistent growth over time, right? So once we do that and you've kept a trading journal, which is literally, I've got spreadsheets that are journals, and it's basically where you just, write out the entries, exits, was it profitable, everything about the trade that you entered. And they are specifically for, what you don't track, you can't measure. And we have a business plan. After, you've done that and you're about to go live, you're then going to create a trading plan, which is basically a business plan. And that, you're not going to go open a business without a business plan, and your trading plan is the exact same thing. So trading is a business. Yep. And we need to treat it accordingly. So your trading plan has a pre-market routine. So that's like, are you going to work out, what are you going to do to get in the headspace to come onto the charts? Then you've got your confirmation checklist, like what makes trades valid. You're not just going to come onto the chart and be like, oh yeah, that looks like it's going up, I'm going to click buy. Like, we need confirmations that our trade is right. It's got entry rules, exit rules, risk rules, take profit rules. And then we've got a post-market routine. So, I literally thank my computer. I'm like, thank you, computer. Yeah. Like just a post-market routine, journaling, just the outcome. I always ask my traders to write down, things, 3 things they didn't do so well, but also 3 things they did do well. Because if we're on a losing streak, you don't just want to focus on the things you did well, right? You want to focus on on the things you didn't do well. You want to focus on things that you did well, because psychology. Yep. Another thing is obviously the accessibility of Forex. So, you don't need a lot to start. The reason that this is a personal appeal for me. I didn't have a lot of money to start, as you all know. I started my first live account with $250. So in Australia, you can open up a broker account with $200. Okay. So I love that, but I also hate that because of people's money mindsets. And when someone starts trading, we want to rid all of their stories about money and prime their money mindset to treat trading like a business and take quality trades and think, just because we've got $200 in our account, we want people to be thinking as if they have $200,000 account, and not just taking trades because, it's $200. I don't really care what happened. I've spent more on a night out. So you can be a hobbyist trader and make small money to start, or you can be like me and treat it seriously, dedicate the time, be patient, be disciplined, and you can make, more than full-time income. Okay. Yeah. Another really good thing about trading is leverage. Okay. But you've got to use it properly. So in trading, we have this thing called margin and leverage, and margin is basically your capital as it is. So if you've got $200, that's your margin. Leverage is capital provided by your broker, and it works on ratios. So when I open my account, say I set my leverage to 1 to 10. If I have $100 in my account, I essentially have $10,000 worth of capital to trade with. If I have 1,000 and I have a 1 to 100, then I've got essentially a $100,000 account to trade with. So it maximizes your profits by a factor of 10, but also if you lose. Now, it doesn't mean you've got to pay that back. It just means you've blown your account. Okay. So you've got to understand how to use it effectively. And you've really got to understand that, the Forex market is influenced by a lot of macroeconomic factors. The economic stability of any country, global news, political events, elections, trade deals, natural disasters. So we teach you how to read the financial news, and it's not on Channel 7. So it's on forexfactory.com or Daily FX or something like that. And that's where interest rates get released. So you actually get really knowledgeable on what is going on in the world. So it's pretty cool. So, I mean, there's a million, like I said before, you can make money in rise and fall, it's.
You mentioned that you say work 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, in essence, 5 to 8, was it? 5
So
p.m. to
I'll
8?
come on the charts around 3-4.
Yep.
If I'm not in a swing, right? If I'm
Yep.
not in an existing trade, I'm coming on to day trade. I will pop on the charts around 3 or 4. I'll have a look what's going on. So you can do instant market executions, which is when you see something and you're like, okay, I'm going to enter now. Or you can set pending orders, which is basically where you can, set a trade to enter at a price that you want, and then when it reaches that level, you're in. So I'll either set pending orders, or I'll just, knowing which time frame I'm working on, each one of those candlesticks represent the time frame. So if I'm on an hourly time frame and I know that, price in maybe 5 hours is due to come up to where I want it to, I'll just, not log that, or I'll set an alert on TradingView and I'll jump on and have a look then. So around 3-4, I'll jump on 5 p.m. London session. But as a rule, when I'm day trading, I'm usually trading GU, so the pound and the US dollar, through London. So nighttime.
All right. And how much research do you normally go through in a day? Or is it just once you get on, that's your research time? Because you said you read the papers and, the online market places.
Sunday, I'll go on to Daily FX or Forex Factory, and I'll look at the news coming up for the week. If they're red, then that's high impact news. Now, I don't steer away from news. That's one thing. That's a myth that has been taught to the retail trading industry, is be really careful of the news, don't trade the news. And honestly, the news, if we think who runs the market, they're the institutions, they're the governments, Who owns them? The media. Well, they don't, you know what I mean?
But pretty much say,
So,
let's not go down that way.
I was like, conversation. There's probably another podcast, but I've got a lot to say about that.
Don't we all?
It's essentially news is just the excuse. It's nothing to fear, right? News is just the excuse. So we don't, us as institutional traders, we don't fear the news.
No, that's cool. So SJ, what a couple of really important things that you highlighted there that I really love our listeners to take out of this, and that is that it's not fluke, it's not accidental. The difference, it makes a difference between someone who starts and is successful. When you talked about the high attrition rate in the industry, now you want to study what the people that are doing exceptionally well are doing and do that. So if you want to model, and this is the area that I've gone and looked at, is the neurobehavioral modeling, where it's what do you want to study the behaviors, the thoughts, the beliefs, the habits, the traits of people who are achieving what you want at the highest level, right? And the biggest determining factor, particularly in trading, is, as you said, the discipline of keeping a trading journal, trading diary. So as you said, your entry and exit points, why your decisions were around that, why you got into that trade, or why you didn't, why you got out of it, what you had. And you do all these metrics so that you can look back and go, what led me to make this great decision? Or can I see patterns in the way I'm going along? And so that's the real big difference, is having a system to almost to scale, to reproduce, to empower you, and to give you the freedom that you're talking about. Because ultimately, if you're bound by your trading system, that means you're spending 19 hours at a computer a day. That's not freedom. What you're talking about is doing the training and the learning and having the discipline to follow the system, and then to get yourself out of the way and just optimize what you've got in place as a tool to run a business. And that's the freedom element that's really, really important.
Exactly.
So, because that then obviously sets people up for success. It avoids the failure, and it keeps them in the percentage of people who are getting the results that most people aren't. Most people are trading on emotion, a quick tip from somebody they heard, a taxi driver, or the next best thing, or they watch the news, hey, that's going up, and that'll work okay. And hand on heart, I've made money that way, but I realize that this is all great, but if this turns, you're left, basically the tide's gone out and you're left not wearing any clothes, and that's where people do their dough. So there's a deliberate process and system that professionals use in trading that people who are successful in all areas do. It's not luck, it's a system.
It's 100%. And I read it it was in one of the books I was reading about trading. It says that in a room of 100 people, about 4 to 8 would come out successful.
Yeah.
Right? And I found that really interesting. And I've never met anyone who can't do this.
Yeah.
I've never met anyone, because like I said, it's nothing to do with the industry. This industry makes the world go round. So if we're willing to do exactly that, to get out of our own way, to become better, to actually do this, because the only way this will never work for you is if you quit.
Yep.
Period. And I like to tell everyone to treat it like a trade or a uni degree. Because, and this is the other thing I say to people, I'm like, are you willing to put in, you may be a wizard and pick it up in 10 weeks. I don't know. It may take you 10 months. It may take you 10 years. But is that not still better alternative than working 40, 50 plus years of your life at a job, making, just enough money to just live your life? Like, what's better? Because I always say to people, if not this, then what?
Yeah. No, good point. Great point. So SJ, you mentioned earlier that we met on a personal growth and development seminar, and that's going back nearly 5 years ago. I think that would be the case. And you've highlighted the importance of personal growth and development within trading. So you also have mentioned that a big part of the posts that your social media presence, there's always a big personal growth and development element to it. You're asking questions of people, and to know you're not the influencer who's doing shallow posts. You're actually asking and challenging people on really core truths, really core principles. So tell me, why is that important to you? Why the personal growth? What's the drive? You mentioned you love, and I get it, but what's the driving force behind the posts that ask the bigger questions that most people don't ask?
Because people, what should I say then? I'm like, because I want people thinking bigger. Like, how can a human just come to this life and be granted this beautiful world that we live in and just think that we were born to pay bills and die? Like, I don't understand that. And I want people thinking bigger. I want to ask the hard questions. I want people to be critical thinkers of everything, not just go with the motions of just life. And, I get messages all the time saying, hey, that post really pissed me off, but it's made me realize something. And I'm like, good, my job's done. Like, I don't care to be liked. If I cared to be liked, then I would do what everyone else is doing. I do not care to be liked. I've given up that very long time ago. And I guess, personal growth and development and fulfillment, success, all of that is important to me, because literally that, I strongly believe we weren't just here to be, pay bills and die. We have a purpose to fulfill. And some people find that. Others are too closed-minded to even think about doing anything else other than showing up at a job and merely living. So it's important for me, because I believe we aren't meant to struggle. Right? And those that are struggling are choosing to, because we live in an age of technology. We live in an age of information, right? And in 2015, when I was broke back up against a wall, I decided then that I was worth more than the struggle, okay? And I want to encourage people to dream bigger and live a more fulfilling life. And I have met a ton of people that don't do anything with their lives, and that's okay. I'm not going to judge them, right? But they say they don't want the finer things. And you know what? We can all be humble. That's fine. We don't need the materialistic things. Materialistic things do not motivate me. Knowing that I can pay my bills on time, I can walk into a shop, buy anything I want, don't have to look at a price tag. I don't need the fancy things. I just want to be secure in myself, okay? But I also think a lot of the time people talk themselves out of wanting the finer things in life because they've never been presented an opportunity to achieve it. So they try and justify it by saying, oh, I'm not into that. I don't need those things. Money doesn't make me happy. Those people that say that have never had any, because money gives you choices, and choices is what creates, another realm of happiness. But if you ask someone if they could have those things, or if they would have those things, aside from the justification, 9 times out of 10, they would grab it, right? And this industry is, this entire society, is all about instant gratification. And that's another reason why traders that enter this, most don't last, is because they want that $1 million in a month, right? And I've had so many conversations with people over the years. I see so much talent, and I see so many people with so much lack of self-belief, right? And I see that people have all of these aspirations, they have talent, but they lack the conviction to transform these aspirations into actions and actually achieve their dream life. So if on my part, if on social media, if I'm asking these hard questions, if I can give people that proverbial kick up the ass and encourage them, I don't know if we can swear on this podcast.
Oh yeah, Please
okay.
go your damnedest.
Okay. Okay, good.
As hard as you want.
If I can give people that kick up the ass and encourage them and pour belief into them and love into them until they believe in themselves, until they believe that they can also do it, then I do that. I do that to literally I give pep talks all the time. I have traders that are an ant stick away from breakthroughs that are about to quit, and I'm just like, rah, rah, rah on the phone. The next day they're like, oh my God, I get it. And it's just like, if I can inspire someone to do something, go out there and do something amazing with their lives, then that's my job done. Trading business, that's my vehicle. I don't care if people trade or not, but I do care if people settle, complain, and bitch and whine that, why me, when we all have options and we choose, right? And Jim and Adam, we know most people will, I hate to say this, we know most people will never be successful. Okay. And, Jim Rohn says it best, right? Successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better, right? That's one of my favorites. And every single one of us, we all have a choice, right? I have people in South Africa who use internet cafes to learn this. I have people in India whose monthly wage is literally $230, which is the cost of my platform, right? It's not expensive to me, but to others it is. But where there is a will for change, there's always going to be a way. And anyone can choose to become successful, but most people never will. And everyone can choose to make money, or they can choose to make excuses and justify, but we can't have both, right? And most people are always going to choose comfort over growth. They see the price for true success, for true freedom. They're like, no, thank you. And this is one of the most important characteristics of the mediocre majority. And that is, people are unwilling to trade comfort and stability for the pain of growth. And that growth is what's going to get people places, but that success costs you. And to reach higher levels, we must be willing to become child again. We must be willing to learn and to grow in new avenues. We must be constantly be willing to be a small fish in a big pond, to lose the ego. But most people aren't willing to do that. And I think, the truth is every single person could become healthy, happy, fulfilled, starting right now. Like as soon as they could shut off this podcast and go choose to be that, right? It is a choice that is available at every moment in time, but most people never take it. And the choice to be 100% financially independent is available right now. The choice to have extremely rewarding relationships is available right now. And the choice to experience, emotional healing, which is what you've watched me experience, right? That's available right now. But most people won't ever take that. And it requires us to change and adapt and evolve and, sever ties with toxic individuals and toxic jobs and toxic situations. But anything's possible if we're willing to, if we're willing to pay the price. And not many people are willing to do that.
Yeah. Well, look, what
easy.
What a beautiful answer. What a beautiful answer, SJ. So, it's easy. SJ, when we started this podcast, it was really about success and fundamentally fulfillment. And fulfillment at a big, deep core level. And part of the reason why I love your message and the way you go about it, and the way you go about it your way, is you talk about those things. You talk about, it's not just about the metrics of Forex and the glamour side of it. You look at that and going, this is the avenue that I can teach you that will help you achieve the most important things in your life and world. So it's the methodology. But the methodology is, let's put that to the side and go, hey, we're talking about your life here. We're talking about choice and freedom and connection and love and fulfillment and contribution and legacy, all things that Adam and I have spoken about. This is your delivery element, or the way you help people go about that. And that's what I love about it. And you do it your own way, and you resonate with people, and specifically for women, for specific women, because you give them the permission to go out there and I love it. I wouldn't say it's abrasive, it's brash. I love that strong feminine essence and energy. I really I really go, yep, I'm
You did
listening to what you're
marry an
saying.
absolute queen.
Well, look, I have, but see, that's my reference, and it's interesting when Adam talks about um, business, and you talk about business. I had an absolute. My mum was not scared of anybody, and so in my mind, I am. That's my model of what's possible for women to be empowered, to be in control of their own life, and to actually be intentional in the way they design that. And that's exactly what you're doing, and you're giving voice and permission and and a platform for women out there to be able to do that. And why this is really important to me. I don't have daughters, right? I've got sons, but half the people that we listen to our podcast are women.
Yeah.
And part of the reason your message resonates and hopefully resonates with them is to say, in this day and age, you can do whatever you dream.
Mm-hmm.
And here's an avenue. Here's one way that you can do that based on what's most important to you. And I love the message for that reason. So I'm really grateful for the personal growth element of your message around building your brand and your business. So it's really awesome. Adam, have you got anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I was just listening, and I've been trading the share market recently, and in the past week, I've sort of realized what you've sort of outlined: the patience and selling at a high. And every announcement that comes out, I started reading, and there was a few shares this week that went up, and I had them, and I read the reports before the day trading, and I was like, all right, I'll set my price. It sold, and then the past 3 days it's just crashed, and I'm like, yeah, sort of. I'm starting to sort of understand how you've got to follow this, research it, assess your risks, and go, hey, just because there's a lot of hype behind it doesn't mean that it's actually true. And I benefited quite a bit this week, but then I didn't reinvest that money once I sold. I'm like, actually, let me study now. Let me look at what's going, and I can understand how the concepts of Forex can go into the share market. And this also makes me think that I'm in the next step up, I can go to Forex because, my mindset has shifted in the past week or two to understand that it's not just quick money. Well, it can be quick money, but you have to base all your decisions off research to get that sort of quick money. So it might be quick that it comes out in 3-4 hours, but you might need 2 or 3 hours to research it before it comes off. It doesn't just hit like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 weeks as well.
SJ, please jump in here as well too. If this comes up, the biggest thing that I found about trading Forex is character building more than anything else, because your system could be 100% correct, and it'll be loss, and something happens to the psychology of someone who, and this is why I'm saying there's so many parallels with jiu-jitsu, where you're constantly getting tapped out, and you're like, far out, man. Like, I'm not getting the outcome, but the process is correct. And so what's happening is, and this is what SJ is saying, is that you've got risk management in place so that you're minimizing your downside. You're not doing your dough. You're not burning through your basically your book and your what's the term I'm after? You're basically not doing all your dough all in one go. You might lose 3%, 2%, 1%, but it's something psychologically that happens to you to constantly keep going, I'm doing everything right, loss. But then suddenly things turn and you've been doing exactly the same thing, but it's just actually the process. It was that was the case in there, but there's the discipline of following it through, because that's what I've realized even in coaching people who do Forex trade, is sometimes the best thing that can happen to them is to take those losses and stick through it and keep working through and learn the lessons. Sometimes the worst thing that can happen for them is they have one big win straight away, and they think that that's how it's going to happen all the time. Yeah.
There's I think there's like 7 or 8 levels of a trader's growth. So one's obviously, but this is the beautiful thing about a demo account, right? Is that all these losses, like, yes, they're inevitable, but so many losses is so avoidable at the same time, right? And if we're on a losing streak, go back to demo and figure out what's happening, because and this is why we journal our trades, because if you're losing and the same thing's happening over time, that's what you need to work on. That obstacle right there is the way, right? And in terms of the 8 levels or stages, we've got one which is losing money. That's always the first one. but be on demo as well, because I'll talk about risk in a second. And then we've got, step 2 is losing less money, which is good. And then we've got break even. Maybe we've like brought our account back up and we're at break even now. Then we've got small gains, and then consistent gains, which is when we're going to start compounding and growing our account. Then we're going to expand on our setups, add higher lot sizes and things like that. So they're the stages. But in terms of like, discipline and trading, there's not even a question. It's not a conversation. Like, you need to be disciplined, incredibly disciplined, and you have to have a lot of patience. And that's why a lot of people don't last, because in a society where we want instant gratification, we want results right now. And it's so ironic, because for a society that is also scared of get rich quick schemes, they really do want that, right? They want that $1 million in their first month. So when I say discipline, I mean, we need to be able to sit on our hands and have patience and to not force it, right? We need to wait for the trades to come to us. We have to have our checklist and our trading plan, and we need to follow it. We need to have discipline to not revenge trade after we lose. And, I'm a really competitive person, right? So that's kind of detrimental for a trader, because I want to be right all the time. And that's something I talked about before from an early age. We as humans, we're not wired for this type of thing. And the skills that we've learned throughout our life from growing up are not appropriate for trading. This is why we've got to be a student, okay? So when we're a young age, we're taught about, what's, about right and wrong. We're indoctrinated about what's right, what's wrong, and we want to be right all the time because we don't want to be wrong. But in the trading world, losses are inevitable. We're not going to be right all the time, and being wrong is actually okay, because in trading, you can still be wrong 40% of the time and still make big money, okay? But for us, we're humans. We are, we emotions run us, right? And we like to be right. So if we can't accept a loss and the fact that we're going to be wrong at times, our ego is going to kick in, then doubt, then rage, and all these emotions we don't want. So our success is really not found on a computer screen. The markets are made up of participants who are at any moment in time experiencing a range of emotions, which then generate, essentially volatile market conditions. So we need to make sure that we are managing our emotions and showing up neutral, okay? On my charts are black and white with a gray background. The reason I have black and white and gray is because they are neutral colors. The market is neutral. Colors provoke emotional responses. If I see lots of green, I'm going to think it's really bullish. If I see lots of red, I'm going to think it's bearish.
Yeah.
They are very key psychological factors. So if I remove everything on there that can, potentially sway me, that's going to be better for me. So most traders know that getting in and staying in the right mindset is essential, but it's a really hard thing to explain until you're in the trenches experiencing it. And part of Forex is understanding, or, I guess part of Forex trading psychology is understanding, you need to be able to recognize the presence of fear and greed, right? Sometimes we get scared and we don't enter the trade because, oh my God, I might take a loss. Or it might be running really good and we move our take profit, or we don't move our stop loss into stop profit, and then we lose it, because we didn't manage our trade in a risk sense. So you need to have emotional discipline as a trader, but it does take time to develop. It takes time to become relaxed, because when I show up on the charts, I don't get excited to trade. I don't wake up and be like, oh, fuck yeah, I get to jump on the charts today. Like, I don't do that. I'm enthused about it. Like, I like to do it, but I'm never like, if I win, I'm like, cool. If I lose, I'm like, cool, what happened?
Yeah.
Let's look at it. And all of that is going to be learned through experience. And in my teachings, I focus a lot on risk to reward, right? So our risk never changes. So I'll give you a risk example. Say on a $200 account. So me personally, and what I teach is I never risk more than 1% to 2% of my entire account. Okay. Yeah. So if I'm twin trading, then obviously that's going to be a maximum of 1% on each trade, meaning I've got 2 trades on with different take profits. Or if I've got 1 trade on, my maximum risk is going to be 2%. So if I have a $200 account and I'm using a 0.04 lot size, or even a 0.02, my maximum risk in being very conservative is $4, right? So if I ever need to, up my risk, my reward must be there. Okay. So say, for example, I take 3 trades with a risk to reward of 1 to 2, meaning I'm risking 1% to then gain 2% of my account. I lose 2 trades, I win 1. Minus 2% plus 2% is 0. So I make nothing, even though I won 1 trade. But if I take the same 3 trades and I have a risk to reward of 1 to 10, meaning I'm risking 1% of my account to gain 10%, I still lose 2 and I win 1. Minus 2 plus 10 is 8. I'm still up 8% of my account, even though I've taken 2 losses.
Yep.
So it's not about coming on and getting little bits and bobs and bits and bobs. We want to make sure they are quality trades, and losses, it happens. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's basically cutting down, letting your basically your wins go and cutting down your losses. So you're basically curtailing the things that could go wrong and directing them. It's kind of like that's really what stop losses are. It's an insurance policy to stop the risk of things basically decreasing and getting an outcome you don't want, pretty much.
In saying that though, in terms of like letting our winners run, that can sometimes induce greed as well. So we've always got to take what the market can give us. And if you're if you marked up a profit of 50 pips or something like that, knowing that it could go more, be happy with 50 pips because profit is still profit.
Yeah, no, spot on. Look, this has been fantastic for I'm sure our listeners. SJ, to get an insight into, number one, what it takes to be a Forex trader, ultimately what the benefits are of Forex trading, and why at a time like this, where the whole world is circling the wagons, this is a model that is basically not dependent on, as you said, a role, an environment, a location. Gives you ultimate freedom and choice and flexibility that's only limited by your own imagination, your own preparedness to work on yourself and on the craft. So if people would like to connect with you, find out more about Forex trading and the programs that you run, how would they do that?
So I have, my Facebook is literally SJSJ then Plumpton, PLUMPTON. My Instagram is _it's SJ Plumpton, just my name and everything. YouTube is also SJ Plumpton. My email is SJ Plumpton.
Hey, consistency.
It's same across the board. I'm very active on both Instagram and Facebook. I don't have a website. I'm very interactive. I like people to like see me in the flesh doing my thing rather than just going to anyone can make a website. I would rather like have not everyone. Actually, I can't make a website. That's probably why I don't really have one, to be honest. But
hey, I can't. Adam's done it all, right? I don't. I just outsource.
So it's not me. It's my sister's boyfriend. He's the web designer, and I just put my little like tweaks on it every so often, and that's it.
I like that. Cool. Maybe I'll put you up.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't have a website. I'm just on socials. You can find me there. There's only like one of me, but if you go to YouTube and type in SJ Plumpton, there's like a plethora of videos.
All right, awesome.
There's like an even about me one there. There's how I got into it. There's actual trading videos as well.
Great. Awesome.
There's an overview of my education. There's a lot of content on there.
Fantastic.
What about TikTok? Are you on TikTok?
I am not on TikTok.
Can you get me to convince Jim to do a dance with me on TikTok?
No.
I think he'll listen to you. He's got some respect for you. So please just, twist his arm. Get him to do a dance with me.
There's one really funny guy I do like on TikTok when I had it. This Indian guy who was on a no fizzy drink challenge. And every day he would come on and he's like, I don't want to mock the accent. That would be mean. But I was like, he's like, day 20, no fizzy drinks. And it was just so good. And he was losing so much weight. And he was getting, healthy and just, it was epic. So that's my favorite TikToker, by the way.
Yeah. Probably very low chance of dancing on TikTok for me. It's been this ongoing thing he's been trying to get me to do, SJ, and I'm not going to.
You know what? I'm gonna be consistent and chip away at this. Every podcast we're gonna just talk about it. And
okay. Well, I respect your tenacity, but it's the same answer will be the one you get. So, Adam, final comments from you, because look, this has been a fantastic podcast for a lot of reasons, as I said. But is there anything you want to? Have you taken away specifically? Any comments about what SJ has shared with us today?
Just re-hitting the point of patience. And this is one of the things I say in every business is just, you've got to trust the process, be patient, and you will lose money. So that's my philosophies for business. And, it's not always the cheery stuff that you want to hear, because, you want to start a business, you want to make money, but a lot of businesses lose out, especially at the beginning when you're learning. So always be prepared to make those losses. But again, do your research so much. Like, as you were saying, SJ, like, do as much research as you possibly can to ensure that you don't lose so much money.
Yeah.
But yeah, you will lose money. Trust the process and just be patient with it. And eventually you will succeed. But just do the right things, be honest, and just trust it. That's it.
Yeah. And SJ, for yourself, any sort of final comments, words, takeaways that you would hope has come through our podcast today?
I just want people to dream a bit bigger, to not accept the social norm, to know that, poor choices, it's not a lack of talent or ability. Poor choices is the one thing that hinders people's success, and you have a choice every single day. And sometimes we have to do the things that we don't want to do to have the things that we want to have, and it's called sacrifice. So you must be willing to pay the price if you really do want the dream life, because it's yours for the taking if you want it. But yeah, I think that would be it. Like, I want people to live, not just like mope around.
Yeah, fantastic. What a great way to cap off our podcast today. It's been great having you. Thank you so much for being on our show. I'm sure people have taken away a model of value and understanding, a perspective that they may not have even considered before, and you've certainly given them something to consider and something to think about as something they can create for themselves. So thank you once again for being on the show. Always great having a chat to you when we deep dive into the personal growth and development side of it as well. And just really, really grateful for you sharing your journey and your story authentically and with vulnerability as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks, SJ.
For the opportunity, guys.
Pleasure. So I just wanted to thank everybody also for listening to us once again. This is just a reminder that you can connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and the extended Launch and Beyond community on these channels. Please post any questions or any comments you have about the podcast or anything you'd like to have support with. Please let us know if there's a guest you'd love us to have on the program like SJ today. We're more than open to inviting people on there to share their skills and learnings and talents in there as well. We really appreciate if people have any thoughts and questions that they have that they can share on our socials, so that the dialogue creates a greater level of discussion and awareness among people. If you're enjoying the podcast and you're finding value with it, we'd be grateful if you could go to iTunes and leave us a review. That'll allow us to reach a larger audience and help more people. So for me, thank you very much. Have a great day and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.
Thanks, guys.